Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall, joined by Adam. And we are a little sleepy. It was a late night, but what a fantastic night of the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. I've got iced coffee in hand trying to keep me company and keep me awake. Obviously, started off at 1 a.m. into Friday morning this morning. Finished pretty much at about 5 a.m., quarter to 5, around that end in the end. So obviously, for all those people who are in the work today, keep going. I'm sure you know what I mean. If you finish at 5, you've got 2 hours left, under 2 hours left, actually. You'll be all right. You can go through it. And then you can stay up till midnight tonight. Well, yeah, midnight tonight to watch the second round. Thankfully, on Saturday, the fourth round onwards is a lot earlier. I think it starts at more like 8 p.m. our time. So a lot of fun in Green Bay. They really came out, didn't they, Adam? I have to admit, I don't think it felt as carnival-esque as Detroit. I still think it felt really fun. It looked like everyone had a great time. We're very, very privileged with what we get with doing this podcast and the opportunities that arise, but we had the opportunity to go to the draft. We unfortunately weren't able to go over there. But I think it would have been a fantastic time. It would, this draft had a few twists and turns. We did say off air that I didn't feel there was any sort of fall out your seat moment. We didn't have a Michael Penix moment or a Jordan Love moment sort of happen.
Yeah, I think that's fair. When it comes to the draft, there was a lot of Green Bay fans, and you worked that out pretty quickly after the Green Bay pick, to be brutally honest. It did drop off a bit after that. But yeah, it was apparently there was over 200,000 people there, and I think isn't the Green Bay has sort of got like 107,000 people or something that live there, so it was pretty mental for them. And I kind of agree. I don't think there was any real sort of. There was a lot of like, oh, I don't quite get that pick. I think that was kind of more what it was, but at the same time, you could kind of reason it, I suppose, or understand a little bit if you sort of like took time to actually look into it. But yeah, a lot of it, to me, there wasn't a massive sort of like, what the hell are they doing? That's insane. And literally everyone on Twitter has just lost their mind over it. It kind of felt like that didn't happen, but it was still like, it was kind of good. It was, I think this particular one, it kind of felt a bit more exciting because although there was a few guys at the top who are real top talents, it then kind of becomes what people like and what certain teams like. And that's very difficult to project. And so I think that's why all our mock drafts were probably a complete waste of time.
Well, everyone's mock draft a complete waste
of
time. Yeah. But it's all part of the fun. I think, like you were saying, like we said in podcast previously, it's not us that said this. It was Daniel Jeremiah that said this a lot. This was a start. It's not stars draft. And, actually, like, people that maybe aren't so au fait with the college players and knowing who they are, I would definitely encourage you to definitely keep an eye on the second and third rounds because there's talent there. There's starters there for sure.
Yeah.
We're probably going to speak about some of the players who've dropped. Definitely one player who dropped out the first round completely. But we'll start with like what was the biggest news of the night and sort of kicked off the draft. I mean, it happened. The rumors started circulating throughout the day but the Browns were definitely the Jags were definitely looking to move. It was with the Bears though. There was loads of rumor about the Bears moving up to 5, and the idea of that, I think, for a lot of people was that they're going up to 5 to get Ashton Jeanty. They didn't move, but the Jags did move. And their idea, the other side of that idea was that the Jags were moving down and they would probably get Ted McMillan. But they didn't. Instead, there was a trade with the Browns. I will get up the exact trade in just one moment, just because I haven't got that in front of me. But the Jags trade up with the Browns. Browns go down to 5. They go and take Jags go and take Travis Hunter, the cornerback / wide receiver out of Colorado. I mean, firstly, what does this say about the Jags doing this sort of move, and how are you feeling about this for Travis Hunter? Because one of the big things I immediately said, like, this is going to be fun seeing him potentially 2 times in London. Like, it's going to be that's going to be really fun. And we get that every year game. We always get a big draft person over here. So
yeah, I mean that's true. That's something that I think probably a lot of people didn't necessarily think about straight away. But obviously for us over here in London, you know, we do get the Jags normally twice a year now, and so having Travis Hunter come over here is going to sell tickets, I would have thought. I mean, you know, he is something that is he is a rare talent. So I think
and
that's
it is a need, isn't it? This
yeah,
is a
yeah,
need.
absolutely.
Wide receiver
Yeah, I
and
mean,
corner is a need.
look, if you look at it when it comes to the Jags and how their roster is structured at the moment, Tyson Campbell obviously is very good at corner, and to be brutally honest, there's not really much else there. There are a few others, but it's more depth pieces than anything else. And then at wide receiver, they've got Brian Thomas, obviously, who's great, and they've got, you know, they brought De'Ami Brown in, but you know Christian Kirk's gone, and there's not really a lot else in the receiver corps. So I think that kind of makes sense that obviously they would be good for both. You know, both positions, that he can play in both positions, and I think he probably will play in both positions. So I think from that point of view, it does make a lot of sense. They have given a lot up, but you know, this guy is someone that you don't normally get.
The currency, sorry to interrupt you. I've just got that up. Is that the Jags gave up their number 5 pick, a 2nd round pick this year, and a 4th round pick this year, as well as their 1st round pick next year, and they acquired. In return, they acquired the Browns, the 2nd pick, a 4th round pick this year, and a 6th round pick this year. That was the currency in the end.
Yeah, so I mean, the 4th round picks are basically just swapping, aren't they? So there's not really a lot in that. Really, what it boils down to is that you're giving up your 2nd round pick and your 26th first. And you know, James Gladstone, the new general manager, he's come from the Rams organization. He's been through that process where the Rams basically went, well, we don't care about picks either. So, like, they've done this, and he obviously values Hunter as someone who is worthy of really going out and spending this much on him. It is a lot, but he is a rare talent, and he is someone that throughout this whole process, all we've been doing is going, if this guy's going to play 2 positions, he's going to be amazing, and he can do it, and he has the ability to do that. So, you know, that you don't get many of these guys come around very often. So because of that, you can understand why they've gone for it. From the Cleveland point of view, to me, it felt very much like this is their way of basically coming out and saying, we're kind of kicking the can down the road. We're not going to win anything this year, which isn't really a shocker. We're not going to win anything this year. We're going to push on to next year. So yeah, that as well kind of makes sense given the situation they've got with their quarterbacks at the moment, and given the fact that, you know, a lot of people think that 2026 is going to be a better quarterback class.
We have had a question on YouTube from Anthony who commented the other day, and thank you for watching the channel and supporting us. But I will definitely speak to Adam about your question, but we'll leave it for later on in the show. It is regarding his Miami Dolphins. So unfortunately, they're not the hottest topic in the draft at this time, but we will get to Anthony, no problem at all. You continue watching. My umbrage I'm really taking with this sort of the Friday morning of this, of what is being said. I've watched reaction videos this morning. I've watched reaction podcasts from some really big names. And the big thing is everyone is going, you know, you've given away all this capital for a non-QB. And I think we're just completely forgetting that for the last 6 months, 9 months, really, I suppose, is that everyone has said Travis Hunter is the best player coming out of this draft. The best player. And he plays 2 ways as well. And you can't go from Thursday morning, I suppose, saying that Travis Hunter is a unicorn of a player, that he's a franchise-changing player, that he is, I mean, from a monetary, from a franchise aspect, when you talk about, you know, bums on seats, jersey sales, advertising, You know, this guy is going to be the face of Madden covers. He's already been one of the faces of the college game that was released this year. He was one of the 3 guys on that. Like, you know, like you are going to spend a lot to go and get this sort of talent, and he wasn't going to be there at 5. Could I argue that the Browns? I think the Browns maybe should have stuck there and took him, perhaps. But again, like you said, I think there's maybe eyes to looking down the line at what maybe is going to come further. But I think if you're going to look down at what's going to come further, I wouldn't have picked Mason Graham at 5. I'd have moved again. I think we were all very surprised. We said it on our WhatsApp group last night that this feels very much like the Browns may go. You know, Bears have been heavily rumored to trade. Bears might come up here, and then the Browns come down to 10. The Browns would maybe look at. I mean, if that happened, if that played out, I suppose the Bears go up, get Ashton Genty. We could have maybe assumed. I'd say maybe the Raiders would go, Membu or maybe Kelvin Banks at 6. Jets maybe the same thing. You then get 8. Ted McMillan goes there. 9. I don't know what happens at 9 there with the Saints because they took Kelvin Banks. Then maybe they look at O lineman or maybe even a defensive lineman. You then get to 10 with the Browns, and I know the Browns could be thinking, well, Colston Loveland could be in play for sure. Even they got David Njoku, but he's only getting older. There was several good corners still on the board. There was several good O linemen and edges on the board there. Like and then you look at someone like Myles Garrett, who when we were at the Super Bowl in New Orleans, it came out that week he wanted to be traded away. He was negotiating to go, and then they gave him all the money in the world. And funny how money talks, and he's very, very happy in Cleveland. How many of these players for this Brown organization want to sit and how much do the fans continually want to sit down through a transitional period? Because it's been a 20-year transitional period, it feels like, for the Cleveland Browns. It's never been right.
Yeah, I don't think they have a choice given the problem with the Deshaun Watson contract. They kind of almost have to go down that route. They went all in and it went horrifically wrong, and that's obviously the tale of what can happen if you do go all in. So I think that they, to a certain degree, they don't have a choice. But then, see, this is where certain other things don't make a lot of sense. It's like you move back to get the first round pick. Okay, great. You take Mason Graham. Now, in fairness, Mason Graham, a lot of us have been coming out saying, great player. Think he's going to be there in the NFL for 10 years as long as he doesn't get injured and all that sort of thing. So you sort of feel like, fair enough, it's not an awful idea. But if you're going into that sort of logic, why not try and maybe the Bears weren't willing to give up enough? Who knows, sort of thing. But it kind of felt like an obvious move to sort of get on the phone to the Bears and be a little bit like, do you not want to come up for Ashton Genty and get ahead of the Raiders? On top of that, they could have got themselves a future first. They could have got themselves a second round pick in this year's draft, maybe, or something like that, which they could have then used for other stuff. They would have moved down to the 110. Even you could have still done D-line. Kenneth Grant was there. Walter Nolan was there. Guys are there that are good, guys. I mean, if they come out and go, oh, we've checked out Mason Graham, we really like him. Well, then they've seen all the tape on Kenneth Grant as well, then, haven't they? Because he's right next to him. It's like these guys are there and they're not bad players. So it did feel strange that when you kind of make that decision to go back, that you don't go back again knowing that you've probably got a trade partner. But maybe the Bears just weren't offering enough. I mean, who knows?
I suppose because we're talking about sort of the top section of the draft here, it'd be good probably to just go choose some topics going through the draft, I suppose, as we've got questions from people coming in as well. So then we look at the next sort of 6 to 15 bracket, I suppose. The big thing in there was the Colston Loveland going at 10 to the Bears and Tyler Warren, as a lot of people expected, going to the Colts at 14. However, a lot of mock drafts had Colston Loveland going after Tyler Warren into the late teens. He goes to the Bears, but you could Cole Kmet. I don't think I think he runs very hot and cold, but I think he's pretty decent. He's also been in a shocking situation quarterback-wise for most of his career there. It's another weapon for the Bears, when I wouldn't necessarily say that weapons have been were their problem, when you have in the building DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze went and talked last year, but people sort of raised their eyebrows at. Cole Kmet as well. Running back wise, DeAndre Swift not doing loads there. But you and Andrew said quite a lot that Colston Loveland is better than Tyler Warren and that he should be going further. And how refreshing was it for you to see that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really nice to see that he did go before Tyler. I think the thing that everyone forgets is that Tyler Warren had a really good season last year, and all the stats are great, and he was incredible. When you actually look at Colston Loveland and the stats that he did, he was doing that like 2 years ago. This is the thing. So it's like he's not a bad, he's a really, really good tight end. And I think that that's something that a lot of people just kind of, it's almost like for the previous 2 years, everyone had Loveland as the number one tight end. And then Warren just kind of overshot him because he had one amazing year. And that's the concern with players that have one amazing year, because you never quite know how they're going to translate going into the NFL. Whereas for Loveland, you feel like there's probably more chance that he'll be better because he's brought in consistent production over a couple of years. So, I mean, that's the concern. When it comes to him playing, I kind of get why they went tight end, because I think I reckon Ben Johnson has probably got God knows how many different plans that he can use two tight ends with. And I think that's what the theory is. And obviously, we've got a few more rounds to go and they can go for another wide receiver if they wanted to. But when you think about it, you've got DJ Moore, you've got Rome Odunze. You haven't really got anything else. Keenan Allen's not there anymore. So I think the theory is probably we're going to have two really strong wide receivers, but then we're going to have two really decent running tight ends as well. And you can go and get yourself a running back later on. It's a really strong running back class. So I can understand why I think if they could get up to get Ashton Jeanty, they would have done it. But because they couldn't, they've gone down this route. And then, they got 2 second-round picks. There's no reason that they couldn't pick up Trayvon Henderson in the second round. And then you kind of got all of that sorted out. And defensively, they're not in a bad state either. So they're in a pretty good spot at the moment. And it's just going to be about developing Caleb Williams, I think.
While we're in this sort of bracket, because it does feature the Miami Dolphins, Anthony's question to both of us, but I'm going to direct it to you, Adam, is do you guys like my Dolphins choosing Kenneth Grant, or do you think we should have traded down and drafted him in the 20s? I think off the bat, it's not the pick I was expecting, but actually when you think about it, you've never replaced Christian Wilkins. You actually never have done that. And we said that last year. We said that's what you should have done last year, and you never have. And the Dolphins at the minute, unfortunately, Anthony, everyone seems to be thinking that you guys are going to be picking in the top 5 next year, or maybe even top 3, to be honest. There is a lot of problems on that roster. And, they're still kicking the McDaniels tires. And I think they're sort of getting to the end of the tether of enjoying that. And I think if you traded down in the 20s, I honestly don't think you get him. I don't think you get him. I think this is proven last night that we also have Kenneth Grant's a good player, but I think the NFL world was a lot higher on Kenneth Grant than maybe the consensus. Would you agree with me on that, Adam?
Yeah, I think that I think a lot of people had him mocked to go in the mid-20s, didn't they? That was kind of where they felt he was going to go. But I think that if you had tried to push back, it felt very quickly that basically what the NFL had or the teams had worked out in this draft was that you can wait on running backs. The wide receiver depth isn't there. So if you want one, you've got to take one in the first round or maybe like the top of the second. But once you get past that, there's not a lot. So it's almost like they didn't really go for him. The QB class obviously just didn't exist at all. And so it was a draft for the big boys, wasn't it? It was O-line and D-line. That's what it was. And so I think because of that, you saw Kenneth Grant going a bit earlier than maybe what many people thought he would. And I don't think he would have been there in the 20s. I think someone would have gone for him. If you'd gone behind the Chargers, I think they might have taken him. The Steelers obviously went for defensive tackle as well. So if you'd gone back that way, the only real partner I think you maybe could have got was the Broncos, but I don't really know what the Broncos would have been coming up for. I mean, maybe if the Broncos had decided that they wanted Tyler Warren, maybe that would have been the move. They could have done that.
Yeah.
So
they've signed their maker, haven't they? But I mean, I don't think that's a long term. That's
no. So you could have done that and got some more draft capital, but I don't think there would have been many trade partners, to be honest. And when it comes to the pick itself, look, I mean, it's really difficult not to come out and say that you should have got a tackle, because obviously there's no left tackle there. But when you think of how much of that defense has gone, as you said, Christian Wilkins has never been replaced. Calais Campbell's gone. Deshaun Hand is gone as well. Yeah, I mean, you got to get someone in there.
Yeah, it's like a bit of Emmental. There's just holes everywhere in it. On that
yeah, a little bit, and it is genuinely. I think with the Dolphins, it's strange because Chris Greer came out and said, didn't he, that they're not in a rebuild, but you sort of look at it and you see all them players going, and
then what are you?
Tyreek's only getting older, and there's a lot of stuff about the fact that he wants out of there, and the defense doesn't look great, and Tua struggles, and now your left tackle's retired, and it's just it's all a little bit concerning from in a division as well where the Bills are obviously great, the Patriots are looking like they're gonna come round again and start getting better under Drake May. Yeah, it's not great.
I don't expect as much noise from the Jets either this year.
No, probably not.
It's a different thing. On to sort of like the next sort of bracket. I mean, we'll talk about the obvious with my Pittsburgh Steelers in a minute, but what a good topic is two wide receivers going at 19 and 23 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and your Green Bay Packers with Emeka Egbuka and Matthew Golden. I mean, not many people had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking a wide receiver, and not a few people had the Green Bay Packers taking a wide receiver. But obviously, like they said in the draft, not been done since 2002. Let's talk about the Bucs first, and then go on to your opinions with Matthew Golden.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Bucs, when the pick was made, you do think to yourself, what the hell are they doing? They've got Mike Evans there, they've got Chris Godwin there. Jalen McMillan looked really good at the back end of last year. They re-signed Sterling Shepard. That's another one who I know he's not amazing, but you just sort of think that's more depth to the position. And then you bring in Emeka Egbuka as well. But I think that, the day after, when you look at it, you can kind of understand it a little bit where, Mike Evans is going to be 32 next season and Chris Godwin is always getting injured. And I think that they probably ended up in a position where they obviously felt that let's go best player available. And I think that and in fairness to them, I think given the position that they were in and what they need, they don't need a running back. They don't really need corner. They're okay at O-line and D-line. It's more edge rusher and linebacker, I think, is what they need. They obviously weren't comfortable with Jahad Campbell's medical, which is why he failed so much. And I think they probably just went, Egbuka is a guy who is going to be a great pro for like 8 to 10 years easily. And
let's be honest, if there's a lot of sure things in life, one of the sure things is a Ohio State wide receivers.
Yeah, exactly.
And the videos I've been watching today from the big guys that are in the NFL podcast from North America is that Egbuka, has been a slot receiver. He can play on the outside as well.
Yeah,
he just couldn't at Ohio State because there's so many good wide receivers.
Well, you're not going to, are you? If you've got Marvin Harrison there, you're not going to play him out wide. You're going to play him in the slot.
Jalen Smith as well.
Jalen Smith, Again,
so people that aren't into college at all, Jalen Smith will probably be a top 3 pick in what, 2 seasons?
27, isn't it? Yeah,
in 27. And as well, from everything I sort of saw before the draft, is that people love Emeka Egbuka. Like his intangibles, his meetings at the combine went fantastic. Like like he's not got particular diva about him. He's very team oriented. He seems pretty. I think really what they were saying was head to toe every franchise who had heavy involvement with Emeka was like, we would love to draft Emeka. Like we just don't know where we don't know how we'd maybe get there or where, or we've got other options or other needs. But he was definitely like one of the players that's going to come out this weekend where all the teams are like, oh god, I would have just loved him. Like he seems to be that sort of player.
I mean, a lot of teams don't need slot receivers this year.
No, they don't, no.
So that's the reason why he never really fitted in exactly. It kind of felt like the Texans for the obvious connection with CJ Stroud, but aside from that, it felt like it was difficult to slot him into the right team. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be great for him. So yeah.
And then Matthew Golden, man, you got a speedster on the outside to add to your, your Infinity Stone gauntlet, of which Jordan loves have with all the crystals of Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson and of the sort. Who's you got another weapon here, man. You must be partially happy,
I mean, it's not where I would have gone at all.
Do you think the one head scratching thing? Do you think is that we haven't done a first round wide receiver since 2002, and look at the wide receivers that were in that bracket, and then we decided on Matthew Golden?
Yeah,
that's what blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, so again, it's another one where you're sitting there and you're just coming out going, you've done this just for the crowd, haven't you? You've done this just for the reaction, and it's just like, what are you doing? No, this is like we came out and said when it comes to the Packers, wide receiver 1 was an issue, edge rusher, corner, that was the positions that they needed to look at. Now, when you look at it now and you sort of see what's happened, the edge rushers, the ones that I liked are still there. Like Mike Green is still there, Donovan Ezeraki is still there, and I'm surprised that they're both still around. Corner, you've still got the likes of Will Johnson around, and there's Trey, other guys at corner. Trey Amos is available, and Azariah Thomas. These guys are there that they can go and get in the second round and the third round sort of thing. So I think what they've done is I think they've probably reacted to the way that the board's going, and have obviously worked out what's happening, which is why they've gone for the wide receiver. My concern with Golden is very much that his speed does not show on tape. Now, it shows he's a track athlete from high school. That's why he was so good at the combine, and that's why he could produce a 4.29 in the 40-yard dash. This doesn't mean that he's going to be like this on, when he's playing. The only thing I can really say about him, and looking on it today as how I can understand it, is that I just sort of feel like Christian Watson obviously tore his ACL. He's also in his contract year, and I just get the feeling that he just keeps getting injured. I get the feeling he probably won't be signed, and they won't pay him big money. So I think this is basically the speed replacement, and I think that's their logic behind it, and that's fine. At some point you're going to have to replace these guys. I mean, Romeo Dobbs is another one who's this is his last year, but you're going to have to pay him the next one. So to me, it feels a little bit like, okay, maybe you pay Dobbs, but you don't pay him loads because he's not like a top receiver. But at the same time, now you've got Matthew Golden being the speed guy. You've got Jaden Reed doing sort of like the jet sweeps and slot guy, and Devontae Wicks is there as well. And I think that that's probably what's going to end up happening. So that's why they've gone down this route. Mm-hmm. I just feel like, for me, there are bigger needs than this, but I can kind of reason with it a little bit. And he's just not. I would have Luther Burden over him. Obviously, that's not the speed, but as an all-round player, wide receiver, I would have Luther Burden ranked higher than Matthew Golden as well.
Well, let's get on to the subject of the Pittsburgh Steelers still having Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback and going for Derek Harmon, defensive tackle. I'm going to preface this with that Derek Harmon's a very good player. And I think it's
He
a
is.
very wise. I think it's a very wise move to go out and get a player that is going to replace Cam Hayward at some given point, because Hayward is, he's in the last. I thought he's been in his last season, the last 2 seasons, and
He's
especially with
37 now, isn't he?
he's also got the podcast stuff he does and
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like that. Like he's going into that element of like
yeah.
he's getting stuff outside of football, that he's enjoying, and wonderful meeting him at the Super Bowl this year as well. Really, really nice guy, and has been one of my favorite Steelers the whole time I've been a Pittsburgh fan. But you get Jackson Dart, you have Shedeur Sanders, both there at 21. I mean, what do you think majority of Steelers fans are waking up thinking?
I think they're probably thinking, why are we going down the Aaron Rodgers route? Is probably what most Steelers fans are thinking. All that, when you think, I mean, you had we've all given you your warnings, and then you had a fairly big warning a week before the draft when he goes on Pat McAfee and basically just trashes the Jets and doesn't really say anything about what he's going to do at all. And I think that must be how Steelers fans are feeling, and they must be kind of feeling a little bit like, what are we doing? Why are we putting ourselves in this position when we don't really need to? Now, don't get me wrong, I would say you should not be drafting Shedeur Sanders at 21. So I've got no problem with this pick at all. I think it's a great pick. Like you say, Cam Hayward is getting older. I think you can partner him up with Benton now, and you've got 2 young, really good defensive line guys there. So I like the pick, and I'm kind of hoping that the Steelers do take a quarterback on Friday, day 2. I think that kind of makes sense, and you could almost just take one and have them sit behind Rodgers if Rodgers is the one who comes in, or even if Kirk Cousins is the one who comes in, of course, is another one. But yeah, I think that they're probably just a little confused as to what they're doing and what's going to, because it felt like the DK Metcalf trade was all in. We're going all in, but we haven't got the quarterback yet, and we still haven't taken one in the first round, and they're obviously not that good. So why have we gone all in on this year kind of thing? I think that's probably the concerns.
I think as an organization that is so rich in this history of the NFL and so storied, we need to now get off this high horse that we're better than these other organizations that make quite bad decisions. Like this is if we're looking at Miami or Jacksonville or Cleveland, we're trashing them. We're saying how bad, but like this is terrible. Like we look completely clueless, and we look like we have no idea. And let's face it, you put a reasonable guy in there, like we have done. We're a playoff team. We're a good team. Yeah. We're not in rebuild mode. We have got guys that are coming to the end of it, I admit, but we've been quite good at refreshing. We've been quite. I wouldn't say we're an aging team. I wouldn't say we're like very nicely in the middle. We've got some of our better guys getting older. TJ Watt and stuff like that. Believe ridiculous. The whole TJ Watt getting traded thing is actually 2 weeks ago. Absolute joke that is. It's not going to happen. I can envisage that TJ. It's never going to be a trade thing. It's going to be he'll get out of contract sort of thing. I just think we cannot be on our high horse. We look clueless here. We look clueless. We haven't got a quarterback. And if you're going to go with Mason Rudolph, we should have just gone then say that a few weeks ago, and we wouldn't have been anticipating in the draft looking for. I'm very okay with getting to the 3rd round and taking Jalen Milroe. I'm actually very, very okay with that. And if that happens, I'd be very, very happy with that pick. Very,
but
he
can't play. You can't play him next year.
But we may. In a
way, but if you do, you'll kill him.
but in a way, Adam, like I've said, and what has been my problem with the Steelers is it's just this perpetual purgatory of not that bad, but not that good. I'm okay with taking Jalen Milroe in the 3rd round, him playing and absolutely tanking and being terrible. I'm fine with that. It's a 3rd round pick. They sometimes hit, they sometimes miss. That is fine by me. And I'm okay making a risk on that. You look at Russell Wilson. I'm not saying Jalen Mills, Russell Wilson. I'm not saying that, but the scenarios can happen. Brock Purdy in recent years, the scenarios can happen where it can work, whether it be Jalen Milroe or another quarterback that maybe drops the turn. Because again, we need to remember we haven't got a second round pick because we went and got DK Metcalf, which indicates so much that we were going a little bit all in. And I'm actually fine with taking Rodgers. I'm fine with that because I know what it will be. What it will be. What I'm not okay with is, again, perpetual purgatory of having no idea. That's what I'm not okay with, is that we look clueless and we look stupid at the minute. And we are not, like, every team fears facing us. They do. Like, they do fear facing us because we're such a storied franchise. We have a great defense. We have one of the best head coaches in NFL history. Like, but you're just screaming inadequacy at this point. Again, this is not shitting on Derek Harmon. I think the pick's really good. I do think the pick's really good. What I hate is the circumstance around it all. Let's move on, though, to this will probably be the last topic before we sort of morph it into who didn't get in the first round, I suppose, and a little bit of shocks there. New York Giants trade all the way up with the Houston Texans. The Texans coming out completely off the first round as well. And for only second round picks sort of swapping. Obviously, the Falcons then traded up behind them with the Rams, and the Rams got a haul for that. So the Falcons looked terrible in that trade, to be honest with you. And they took James Pierce, who some people are a little bit in and out on hot and cold on. But, the Giants go up to 25. A lot of people sort of thought that the Giants may do that because they can then exercise the fifth-year option. They've brought in Russell Wilson. They've got Jameis Winston, who the player can sit behind. They throw up 25. There's suddenly people going, this could be Shedeur Sanders. It's not Shedeur Sanders. It's Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. What's your take on this whole situation with Jackson Dart going and the pick for the Giants? But then also, I suppose, into our ending topic, which will be Shedeur Sanders dropping out the first round, which I'll leave that to you for you to.
No, I really like the pick. I think that this makes a lot of sense. And actually, Brian Daboll is the one who's been sort of banging the drum to get Jackson Dart. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm not saying he's going to be Josh Allen, but he does kind of have that sort of attributes about him where he's very good with his legs and he's sort of like, but he's an accurate thrower as well. And I think that with a bit of time and being able to sit behind Russell Wilson, I really like the pick. I must admit, I'm a little surprised that it wasn't the Vikings that moved back. I think that was the one that we all thought would do it. But the Texans, obviously, I kind of get it with the Texans. I think that they, with Igbuka gone, and I think with a lot of the O-line guys gone as well, I can kind of understand why they decided to do it. And just
if you're not totally enamoured with any,
So
if you see them all as much of a muchness, it makes sense for you.
So I get it. I get it from the Texans' point of view. But yeah, I really like it. I think, like I say, he can sit behind Russell Wilson. I'm not sure Russell Wilson is necessarily going to play the whole season, but he can sit behind Jameis Winston as well. So you've got two really good pros there that are going to be able to teach him quite a lot. And yeah, I think he has a lot of potential. And it doesn't surprise me that they took him over Shedeur Sanders. The thing that I know, like the one thing that Andrew will come out and say to you is that they had a representative, the Giants, at every single Colorado game, home and away. They interviewed him a couple of times. They even had that sort of, not pro day, but whatever it was that they had a week before the draft.
Private workout.
Yeah, private workout with him. And a lot of people were coming out saying, well, if you're having this much time with him, surely you're going to take him, kind of thing. But I can't remember who it was I was listening to, but one of the things that they came out and said was, well, actually, the fact that they're having to spend this much time with him is a concern. And I think this is probably why they haven't gone with him and why they've gone with Jackson Dart. And so, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think with Abdul Carter there from their third pick, they're keeping Kayvon Thibodeau. They've picked up his fifth-year option. I think it's very promising for the Giants.
And Shedeur Sanders slipping completely out of the first round.
I'm not surprised.
You've got I'll let you be
I
biased
get
to
to
begin
smile
with.
on this one. This is Adam's win.
I will let you be biased to begin with, but I think it would be helpful for you to also sort of air Andrew, because if Andrew's not
Yeah,
here,
yeah, no,
Andrew would
that's
have been
fine.
pro, you were the con, that's fine. I don't have enough pro and con in me about Shador to swing it, but you know, you can give your bias and then a balanced argument, I suppose.
A lot of people think not. A lot of people think I absolutely hate him, which isn't technically true. I just do not believe he's a first round talent. That's the problem. And I felt like he was getting pushed up because he's a quarterback, and two, his surname. I think that's the reason that he was getting pushed up quite high. However, look, you saw them. He's got his own, like, what was it he had? He had it all decked out where he was, the all legendary thing and all the caps. And it's like, oh, it was all like, of course I'm going first round. No, afraid not. And stuff like that. And it's almost like, you got Dion tweeting during the draft and of things. And it's just like,
it's such a circus, isn't it?
it is, absolutely. And I think most teams probably went, we don't want a bar of it. We don't want to know that, because why? Why would you want that? And if you've got a choice between, say, like someone like Jackson Dart, where it feels like there hasn't been any of these problems, and then you end up with, with Shador Sanders, and you've got all of that. And the other thing is, you've got all them problems, and we're not even talking about his game. So it's like, then when you move on to his game and you come out and go, okay, well, he can use his legs, but he's not amazing at it. And, he kept on running backwards and getting sacked all the time. He could have just thrown the ball out. There's things like that where it's just like, yes, he's a very accurate quarterback. And actually, the one thing I have always come out and said, I believe that he's got a very, very good chance of being an NFL pro for a good 10 years. I really do. Because I think he's going to be a solid, accurate quarterback. But none of that is the sort of the traits or the sort of, what you want. The reason the Titans have picked Cam Ward is because there's excitement there. There's potential that he could become special. You don't really have that with Shador Sanders. It's like he's a solid, accurate quarterback. It's all reliable. It's them kind of words, which is good, but not great. And that's the problem. But like I say, I do think he has the potential to be something in the NFL, and he could be a starting quarterback for many, many years. But I just don't think he's special enough. And then when you've got all the circus around it as well, it's just like, nah. I think most teams were just out.
Well, I was so keen. I was so keen the Steelers sort of drafting him because, in a way, I've not watched enough to give a very balanced argument on Shador Sanders. But it would get me to a telly. It would get me to a telly to watch. Like, and he will do that. He will have that capability where even if he's playing,
I don't think the Steelers need that though.
I need Summit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I feel like because of the Steelers being who they are and the history of them, I don't feel like they need that to get new fans. I feel like that's something that smaller teams need.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. What other players who have dropped out the first round completely? This is me going off the top of my head here. Mike Green, edge rusher from Marshall. Yeah. Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. Actually, Anthony did have a question and said, what are your guys' thoughts on Will Johnson falling out the first round? Were general managers, were they so concerned that his injury was going to happen again because he was projected a top 10 pick? A lot of people thought the Saints were going to draft him. Donovan Ezerike, like you said, Luther Burden. Again, a litter of the quarterbacks, Shador Sanders, Riley Leonard, Jalen, were not that they were going to be first round players, but these guys are in there. What should we be looking at here in day two?
Yeah, I think, like you say, Mike Green and Donovan Ezerike, I think are probably going to go reasonably high day two. Running backs, I think you're going to start seeing quite a few running backs going. There's some, for your fantasy teams, there's loads of really good running backs this year. Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, these three guys are real top quality running backs, and arguably maybe not as good as Genty, but probably in reality, they're not mega far off. So I think you're going to see there go. Will Johnson, yeah, he had a knee injury, didn't he? And apparently the medical was the problem. I think that was one thing we noticed with the teams. Anyone who had medical problems, they did drop. Campbell dropped, Josh Simmons dropped, Will Johnson didn't get picked. So yeah, I mean, I think he'll go in the second round. Someone will take a chance on him. But there's quite a few decent corners. Trey Amos is out there. Benjamin Morrison is another one who had injuries, and he was Revel, and so some really good corners. D-line strong, so I think you'll see a few of them. Don't think you'll see much in the way of O-line. I think the top guys have gone, and so I think that other positions will be picked. And then,
do you think there'll be a lot of movement today? Do you think there'll be a lot of trading up and down a little bit? Because some teams may
might get a little trade.
If there's a running back run of 2 or 3, they might go, we want to go up and get Caleb Johnson or Quinyon Judkins.
Quinshon Judkins. Yeah.
Quinshon Judkins, sorry.
I mean, like I say, there's 5 running backs. The top 2 have gone. There's the next 3, and then there is a bit of a drop. So I think you'll see teams will try and get up for them 3 running backs at some point. And then what? Sorry?
Corner as well, though, and a couple of the wide receivers.
I don't know if you'll trade up for them. That's the only thing. But yeah, I feel like it's very much running back, D-line is kind of where the depth is. There are some decent corners, but there's not loads.
But that's what I'm saying. Do you think teams are going to be trading?
Yeah, possibly.
Because they see Will Johnson that go, and then Ben Morrison go. Do they go, well, Trey Amos isn't going to stick around for much longer. Let's go up and get him.
Yeah, that's true. That could happen. I don't think you'll see anything massive happen. I think it'll be lots of little trades to sort of get up. And yeah, I think teams that will be interesting, the 49ers could be interesting. They've got quite a lot of picks. The Seahawks have got 2 seconds and 2/3. That they're a team that you would expect to trade up if there's someone they really like.
I mean, Browns got two picks at the top. Of
the Browns have got another second pick,
tonight,
obviously.
And then I think the 4th pick tonight.
Bears have got 2 picks quite high in the second round, so they could be someone who decides to trade back if they don't want to and they want to pick up some more, because I don't think they've got much depth after them. So yeah, there should be some movement. I just don't think there's going to be anything major. But then there wasn't really, like you said, apart from the going up for Hunter, there wasn't really anything major in the first round.
Wow, it was a lot of fun, and I'm sure tonight's going to be a lot of fun as well. Thank you, Adam, for joining me. We can now. I feel a lot more energized actually after that. Like you know what? Maybe I'll stay up the whole night tonight. I do have to preface this for people that haven't experienced the draft before. Is the second round, like the day 2 and day 3, is a lot faster paced. It's a lot faster. Like tonight lasts about 2 hours. Like it doesn't last that long. It's very, very, very quick. Like the first 3 picks might be slowish, and then it starts going and going and going and going. So like, don't think that every round's going to be like the first round. Roger Goodell does come out for every single pick, but it is a lot quicker and a lot fast paced if you do want to stay up or if you do want to catch it for a little bit. And it's very good fun to still watch. And like I said, when your team has got a few more picks in the later round in this draft, especially some of these guys where they are picking in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, even potentially, they could well be very good starters for your team for a long time. So it'd be interesting to watch. But Adam, thank you for joining me. Thank you everybody for watching or listening wherever you are. Make sure you catch us on YouTube and on all of our social media platforms. And we'll see you all again very soon.